Welcome back. This broadcast is brought to you by Cheez-Its. Cheez-It Snack, barbecue flavor. What we're going to be doing today is we are going to be solving proportions. So we're going to see how those equivalent ratios kind of just turn into solving proportions. And some of them you can do really easily. Some of them you might have to set up an equation to solve if it's not intuitively obvious right away. And that's fine because the equation won't be that difficult. So, in order to solve a proportion, we're going to start with the common sense method. The common sense method basically just is saying like how many times bigger is one side than the other side. So let's go ahead and look at 3/5 as a fraction, and it should be equal to x over 30. You'll notice that the right side is bigger, and how many times bigger is it? To get from 5 to 30, you are just multiplying by 6. It's getting 6 times bigger. So if I want to keep this ratio equivalent, I have to do the same thing to the top. So I'm going to multiply the top by 6. And if we take 3 times 6, we get x equals 18. So 18 over 30 is the same thing as 3 over 5. They're equivalent ratios. Let's take a look at one more. We have x over 10 equals 36 over 40. So you'll notice that the right side is bigger. So to get from 10 to 40, we're just multiplying by 4. So whatever number here is x, if I multiply it by 4, we should get 36. Now let's just go backwards. So if we take 36, if I want to go, instead of going that way, I'm going to go backwards. So we're going the opposite direction now. We can divide it by 4, and that gives us a 9. So x would equal 9 in this case. So 9 over 10 equals 36 over 40. You'll notice that this right side is just 4 times bigger than the left side on the top and bottom. And let's look at one more. We have 60 over x equals 6 over 2.5. Now we're getting some decimals in there. You'll notice that the left side is bigger. So to get from 6 to 60, how many times bigger is it? Yeah, you're right. It's 10 times bigger. So to go from one side to the other, we're just multiplying by 10. So to go from 2.5 to get to x, we better do the same thing. We're going to multiply by 10. And if you take 2.5 times 10, you get 25. You can always check your answer. Like once we found that 25 was the answer here, if you type 60 over 25 in a calculator, it'll spit out a decimal at you. And then if you type in 6 over 2.5, you should get the exact same answer. So I think it's 5.4 or something. So if you check it on the left and check it on the right, it should equal the exact same. Go ahead and try the next 3 by applying this common sense method. And then when you're done, we will move on and I'll give you kind of the formula way of doing things. So go ahead and pause the video now. And when you're all done, come on back. Oh, you might be hoping that I give you the answers now. I'm not going to give you the answers. We're going back to where you submit the answers onto Schoology. No magic words today, or are there? You'll just have to wait and find out. Let's move on down to the next set of examples, where we have 10 over 16 equals x over 24. Now you could do this the common sense method and multiply by 1.5, but if that isn't super obvious to you, maybe you want an easier way of figuring it out, we do this thing called cross multiplying. And so what we do is we have a ratio on the left, we have a ratio on the right, there's an equal sign in the middle. We're going to multiply diagonally. So I'm going to start with 10 and 24. So top left and bottom right. I'm going to multiply them together. So we do 10 times 24. Then you have to put an equal sign. So I'm going to put that equal sign. And then you multiply, I'll just change the color so you can see it, the other diagonal. So it's going to be 16 times x, which is just 16x. So now we can simplify it. 10 times 24 is just 240 equals 16x. And then to solve, you can just divide by 16, divide by 16. The 16s go away. And if you take 240 divided by 16, you should get, I think, 15. And 15 would be your answer. So 10 over 16 is equal to 15 over 24. So that's the method called cross multiplication. You are diagonally multiplying across that equal sign, and then so go diagonal, put an equal sign, diagonal, and then just solve the equation. Let's do another one. If I go across the diagonal this way, x times 18 is just 18x. I'm going to get my calculator ready. Bear with me for a second. All right, now we're going to go across the other way. So it's 30 times 39. So I'm not going to show all that work. It's just going to do 30 times 39 on a calculator, and it's going to give me 1,170. So we did x times 18 is just 18x. Put an equal sign in the middle. 30 times 39 is 1,170. To solve this, we can just divide by 18 on both sides. And if I divide that by 18, we end up with 65. So 65 over 30 is equal to 39 over 18. And we'll do one more together. Again, we go diagonally across that equal sign. So 25 times x is just 25x. Make sure you put your equal sign. And 30 times 15 should be 450. And if I take both sides, divide them by 25, we should get, I think, 18. Just trust me on that. X equals 18. So cross multiplying will work every single time you have a proportion. So with that being said, go ahead and try the next 2 or 3 on your own. Pause the video, and when you're all done, come on back. Thanks for coming back. It's going to follow the same process that we've been doing the last couple weeks. Just take those answers from 4, 5, and 6, put them into Schoology, and it should check whether you got them correct or not. Let's move on to the next page. Sometimes it's not just going to be an X down there. There's going to be an expression within the proportion. So it might look a little bit more confusing, but really, it's not that bad. It follows the exact same process. So let's go ahead and do this one. We have 24 times 6. 24 times 6 gives us 144. Then we put equals. Now we have 4x times 9. If you just do 4 times 9, it's 36. So 4x times 9 is just 36x. And that was by multiplying those two. So hopefully you see it's now just a one-step equation. To solve it, we can just divide by 36 on both sides. And 144 divided by 36 gives you 4. And there's your answer. So it doesn't matter if there was an expression down here. It was more than just x. It was a 4x, but that's okay. And let's do one more together here on the top. Again, we are going to cross multiply to solve a proportion. So we're going to take 16 times 15, and you get 240. Then we put equals, and then we go the other diagonal, and we do 12 times 100x. Now, anytime you multiply by 100, you just tack on a couple zeros after that. So it's going to be 1200x, 1200x. When you get to this point, you will divide by the number in front of the x. So in this case, divide by 1200, divide by 1200, and you'll notice something weird about your answer. If you take 240 and divide it by 1200, 240 divided by 1200, you get a decimal. Let me double check that. Divided by 1200, and you get 0.2. And that is just okay. It is possible for your answer to be decimals. It doesn't matter. So just trust your process and it should be fine. So go ahead and try these next 2 on your own. So go ahead and hit pause. And when you're all done, come on back, and we've got 2 more that are a tiny bit more challenging that involves lots of solving equation stuff. So go ahead and hit pause. Yep, now hit pause. Good. All right, I did one of the ones on your own for you just so you can double check it. If you got 1.5 for the first one, you did it correctly. Nice job. If you got that one right, I'm guessing you probably got the other one right. Let's go ahead and move on to the more complicated ones. The process will still be the exact same. To solve this proportion, we're just cross-multiplying. So we have to take x plus 3 times 5. But what that means is, you can kind of think of this as having some parentheses around them. That entire thing has to get multiplied by 5. So we're going to set up 5 times x plus 3 equals, and now we'll just go the other way, 2 times 4 gives you 8. Then to solve it, we just distribute, and it's all the things that we were working on the last unit. So we have 5x plus 15 equals 8. Then we have to get rid of the 15 on both sides. We get 5x equals negative 7. And then we can divide by 5 on both sides. And you get an answer of negative 7/5. If you were to turn that into a decimal, it would equal negative 1.4. Both of those are correct answers. So just because there's an expression up there, just make sure you distribute. Now we have one more that might be a teeny tiny bit more complicated, but I bet you can handle it. Now we have 2 expressions in there. But again, it's a proportion. We're just going to solve it by cross-multiplying. So we're going to multiply those. So we have 10 times that whole thing, 2x minus 3. And then we put an equals, and now we go this way. We have 4 times that whole thing. So I'm going to put 4 times that whole thing, 7x plus 4. So I'll give you a second just to absorb what we just did there. We took 10 times the whole thing, put an equal sign, 4 times that whole expression. From there, we can distribute. So 10 times 2x gives you 20x. 10 times negative 3 gives you a minus 30. Then we're going to distribute that 4. So 4 times 7x gives you 28x. And 4 times 4 gives you a plus 16. Now to solve this, we have variables on both sides. So we can move the smaller one. I'm going to choose to move the 20x from both sides. And it goes away. We're left with negative 30 equals 8x plus 16. Once we have all the x's on one side, we can get rid of the plus 16 by doing minus 16. So we get a negative 46 equals 8x. And then we can divide both sides by an 8. So divide by 8, divide by 8. Sorry, we're running a little low on room, but we get x equals negative 5.75. There's your decimal version of that. If you were to reduce this, this would end up being, it's like 5 3/4, so it's negative 23/4 would be the fraction your calculator would give you. So there are 2 more for you to do on your own. If you're able to do these, you're great at cross-multiplying. So go ahead and give those a shot. When you're all done, plop your answers right into Schoology, and then watch out for the quiz later this week. Other than that, have a good rest of the week, and I'll see you next time.